Gotsy Garage. Today I'm going to be trying to make some tubs for the 4-link, basically making a space for the new suspension that's going to go in. You have to kind of think about the fact that most subframe cars, if you've got a front and rear subframe, it's going to be, let's say your subframe's right here. The 4-link brackets, most of them are going to be 10 inches to a foot, 12 inches. And that means that unless you want a whole bunch of that 4-link hanging down super low and a really high ride height, then you're going to have to make a little bit of a space for the bars to sit up in. I'll show you a little bit about what I don't know how much you can see of this. Hopefully you can see it. I'm trying to get it in the light for you guys, but you've got a chassis part of the 4-link bracket, and you've got a part that is going to be on the axle. In the front, this chassis part, unless you've got, as it shows right here, extending blocks going down, you're going to need some space to move this up. And what's going to kind of get in the way might not be your frame, but your flooring for these bars. Obviously, they're going to go up and down when the car hits bumps or when you launch. So we're going to make a little bit of space. And I've got to be 100% honest with you guys. This is round 2. So you see, I've actually already made some tunnels for my 4-link. And you're gonna want to work on it afterwards. You're gonna want to be able to move it. One of the points of having a 4-link is so that you can adjust it. And well, if you, for this nut to be able to drop down when you take it out, and then take yourself a bolt and put it on the edge of the plate itself and measure from this side to the edge of this bolt, maybe give yourself like 1/8 of an inch. After I measured everything up the second time, they say, well, probably 4th time, they say, hey, measure twice, cut once. Well, I measured twice, should have thought twice, maybe measure 3 times, think twice as well. But hey, it's part of the learning of, fabricating and putting things together. I'm no professional by any. So I should have recorded this, but obviously before you start putting everything in for the 4-link and making the space for the tubs, you're going to need to cut out your stock suspension, things like your leaf springs and cow track bars if you have them. I'll be making this a little bit taller. Why not? That'll allow my bracket, the front part of the bracket that I was showing you right here, that'll allow the bracket to actually move up a little bit more. And that means we can get lower, and who don't like a low car. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this wider, of course. Like what I was just talking about, I've got to have enough space to be able to pull that bolt out. If you're putting a 4-link in your car, you're definitely going to be adjusting it probably. If you're going to the track or you're trying to get some kind of performance out of it, you're going to want to be able to make those changes. I do just probably 6 to 6.5 inches, maybe just 6 inches to 6 inches all the way through. So we'll make, because this is going to also be 6 inches, I think it's going to be easiest just to make 3 6-inch by 17.5-inch sheets and make a box just like this again. Do the same for the other side, and then we'll just tack everything in place just like we did before. We'll get everything sealed up with seam seal and make it look nice and tidy, but we'll have a little bit more space. So I'm going to get started. All right, first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get that new steel cleaned up. It had been sitting around in the yard for a while. Don't want to be trying to weld on rusty steel, much less try to draw on it. If you've ever tried to use a paint pen on rusty steel, might as well just not even try. So I'm going to get this cleaned up, and then we'll start talking about cutting it up and making the little box for our 4-link. That way it's got a home when we're ready to put it in. this point, I had the steel cleaned up, so I started marking my measurements for 6-inch by 17.5-inch plates to make the tunnels out of. Alrighty there, I got her about ready. I almost forgot one little thing. So if you're ever using a plasma cutter, you know, it's going to make your life a lot easier. Things will get cut faster. I just don't have any cutoff wheels today, so we're going to use a plasma cutter. One thing about plasma cutters, though, is a lot of times it's hard to cut straight. You know, things get all swiggly and out of whack and shit. If that's the case, like you can't keep a straight line, because when the hood immediately sees the torch from the light, it goes black and you can't see the lines that you've wrote. Or even if you use white paint, it's kind of hard because it's dimming everything and the steel's dark. It's just hard to see. One cool way, or a good way that I've found out to get a straight line, is just get yourself like a piece of angle iron or something with a good edge on it to use as a guide. You can actually kind of see, this is where I was using the guide and this is where I wasn't. And you can just see how much straighter the line is coming out. So I'm gonna get back to it. Just figured I'd kind of show you guys a little tip that was helping me. Okay, now that I've got them all cleaned up, most of that surface rust is gone. Cleaned up the edges, nice and smooth. I don't know if you can see that, it's a little bit shiny, but gave it kind of a bevel, a little bit of a point on all the edges. Like I said, it'll make it hopefully a little bit easier when we weld it up. I'm gonna do some looking at the body of the car and everything like that, to not, you know, just check, but double check, and not just double check, but triple check, because I do not want to do this for a third time. You don't want to do this for a second time, so learn from my mistakes. I'm gonna get a good look at the body, make 100% sure, measure 3 times, and cut these to shape. Then we'll get them tacked up together and cut the old ones out, so maybe we can put these ones in too tonight. Let me get to it. Back to it. If I get those all the way out, I can measure and cut the new holes for the bigger tubs. That way we got enough room to adjust the 4-link, because if you're gonna have a 4-link, like I said, you're gonna want to adjust it. Real quick though, just like my first try, I want to put a back on it. I don't want to just have a hole in the car, so I'm going to make up some 6x6 pieces. putting in the second one, about to cut the hole for the second one. If this is your first time, then obviously there won't already be a little bit of a hole there. But what I've done essentially is just placed it up there, set it up like so, to find out how much more I need to cut off. If it was your first time, you would just be finding out how much you need to cut out, period. I need to cut another probably 2 inches out, and there should be enough space to fit that one in like we just put that one in. All right, guys, it's the next morning, and I'm back at the shop, and got a little bit of work done. Last night, I finished up making them and got them both tacked in. Not super pretty, but it was enough just to hold them in place. Still spacing them out, but every 4 or 5 welds, I'm just spraying it with some cold air, try to cool the metal down. This is thinner metal, so it can't warp. A little bit of this doesn't take you a couple seconds. It might help you in the long run. Not just how it looks, but how it cooperates with you too.
I don't deny there's some strange evolutionary process going on, but mankind won't be destroyed. The fact that you and I are working here today is evidence of that.
Probably spray it down black, you know, paint it black at the track. And I might go get some more welding wire so that I can tack in some of the parts of the 4-link today, but the goal has changed a little bit. I'm just going to try to get these tubs finished. If I still have time, then we'll start trying to get the 4-link put in there. I just kind of fill it in the little edges around it where the metal meets, just to kind of give it a little bit cleaner finish. And then I grab me some black spray paint. I like to use stuff that isn't like super high gloss, so it doesn't show everything, but it still shows something because it's black paint. And I just put a little light coat on it, and then I'm gonna go back in like 10 minutes and put another coat, and then wait 10 minutes and put one last final coat. Splitting it up into smaller, lighter coats is normally the way to go if you want it to stick a little bit better. Once I get that done, we can seal everything up with seam seal, and it should be finished and ready for the 4-link. So after I put the 3 coats on, I went ahead and seam sealed it up. Got it all the way around, put a good bead. That'll just keep all the water out, keep the bottom from the top. You don't need any of that. And I wanted to go ahead and start putting in the 4-link today, but I think we'll cut it off right about here on this one, and we'll come back for part 2 and 3 where we go ahead and put the 4-link in. We'll get it tacked in, and we start setting things up to figure out things like pinion angle, figure out the ride height, what angles you're going to want to be able to put on the car later down the road, and that'll show us where we need to weld everything up, and then we'll get it put in. Subscribe and like. Tell me what kind of car you got down in the comments, and I'll see you guys on the next video.